Hey guys, welcome to Talde. As a Phil-Am, I mean, you're just born into it, you know? Like, you come home and it's always, you know, when you come home, you always smell Filipino food. You know, it's always there. And I grew up eating Filipino food. And I was kind of telling my business partners the other day, they didn't really know, I guess they didn't really know the gist of, like, how I got, like, my growing up. They didn't know my upbringing. And I told them, you know, up until I started making my own money, until I had a job, it was straight up Filipino food. All the time. There was no going to McDonald's or going to the hot dog stand to get, you know, like all my friends were doing that, but like for me it was always like, Mom, can we get McDonald's? No, there's food at home. There's food at home. So it's always like I grew up with Filipino food. So I think I had this idea in my head that, I still have this idea in my head that I'm not really the brightest kid in the world. I never was like the smartest. But I was always a hard worker and was pretty good with my hands. I knew I couldn't sit down for extended periods of time. Like that wasn't like my job. Like I can sit down for extended periods now because I'm on my feet all the time. But when I was a kid, I always wanted to just be doing something. So I don't know, I mean, I think the combination of growing up with great Filipino food and kind of have an understanding of what I was good at. You know, I wasn't really good at sitting down. I was good at working with my hands and kind of. I had a wild imagination, and I think that helps with. It's usually my mom. I mean, my mom's one of 9.
Wow.
No. She was originally one of 13.
Wow.
2 of them passed away. She was just one of 11, and then some of them have passed away. But out of the, I think the 11, there's 9 of them were women. So all the women in the family cooked, except my youngest aunt, who came here when she was a lot younger. Or she came here when she was in her teens. So she really didn't have that kind of like watching my Lula and all the other aunts and aunts learning how to cook. You know, fish head sinigang. Like I did not like it as a kid, and now I like love it. Now I'm like trying to find how to make sinigang without the packet.
Right.
You know, I don't want to get down with it without the packet. I want to make it as this fresh tamarind.
Mm-hmm. When we were first sitting down at Wiley's restaurant and eating and kind of knowing that we had to interpret his food, and I was one of the lucky people who have eaten his food before. Of the contestants that were still on the show, you know, I was lucky enough to have eaten his food in his dining room prior to, and multiple times. So I had an idea of what Wiley gets into, and I don't know, I'm just kind of a student of the game, so I love just kind of being a food dork and like reading on chefs and so I guess I learned, you know, Wiley does interviews where he says he loves eggs, and I think Filipinos for us, it's like, it's almost like a food group.
Yeah.
You know, eggs are almost a condiment. It's like whatever you're eating, and then a sunny side up egg on the side, you're good. You know. So when I was sitting there having dinner, I was thinking about doing this pho dish, a version of a Vietnamese beef noodle soup, and kind of making a soup dumpling with this beef. And I had never done it before. And I was like, do I take this risk and do this for him? Or do I take another risk, another risk, and do something that I know that Wiley loves, and take a risk on doing something that he loves?
Right.
And I can do it, either do this pho dish I've never executed before, but have an idea how to do it, or do an egg dish that I've really never executed before, but I have an idea how to do it also. And it's also kind of compounding the pressure, the added pressure of that was also Wiley loves eggs.
Right.
So if you don't do an egg right, he's going to slam you for it. It was a hard one. I mean, it was a tough evolution of just sitting there and looking at yourself and watching yourself on. I mean, I think one of the best things that being on one of these reality TV shows can do is you get to see yourself how other people perceive you. We're not we walk in our own shoes every day, and it's like you don't know how someone sees you. Now watching yourself on TV, you can exactly step into other people's shoes and say, that's how I am looked at by other people. You might not agree with other people's perception of you, but at least you get to see where that's coming from.
Right.
And I don't know, I just looked at it and I said, you know what, it sucks. Totally fair, man. I mean, I was not in a good place. When I went on Chicago, I was not in a very good place in my head. I was not. I mean, I was really partying hard.
Yeah.
I mean, really hard. Like, not getting up until I had to be at work at 3 at the time because we worked from 3 to 1 or 2.
Right.
I wouldn't get up till 2:30. I mean, just spent all night just getting fucked up and drinking and partying and staying out way too late and doing a bunch of self-medicating, and it wasn't good. So you take a step back and you get put inside of an arena where there's 18 people who you don't know, and then half of these 18 people you don't like,
I got you.
or their personalities don't vibe with yours, and then all of a sudden you're drinking on top of that again. It was kind of the perfect storm of how does Dale become an asshole? Perfect storm. Drink too much, surround yourself with people whose personalities don't match yours. You're already a little insecure about what you're doing. You don't know if you're the best. You want to be the best, but it's it was a perfect storm. And they didn't. No, it was I love when people say that. Oh, the camera, they edited it, or it was there was editing to blame that.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? But they don't tell you what to say.
It's true.
They don't tell you what to say. You said those words. I don't know. For me, that's kind of how it was. It's people will blame it on everything else except themselves.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's take a look in the mirror and see if this is the person you want to be. And when I left Chicago and had that opportunity to look at myself, I was like, that's not the person I want to be. And it took 2.5 years of therapy. It took a lot of figuring out who I am and what I want to do and how I want my cooks to look at me, and and for me it's awesome that there's that reach. I'm honored that there is that to be even considered someone that's recognized as a Filipino chef. I mean, think about that term 10 years ago. It was non-existent. Just think about just the Filipino culture as a whole, even 10, 15 years ago. It's still ask people now where is Philippines. They have no idea, have no fucking clue where it is. And it's like, I love the idea that, like, that whole Charles Barkley. Well, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, you know how Charles Barkley said, "I'm not a role model" and shit.
Yeah.
I will. I don't believe in that. You know, I will stand. I will. You know, make my shoulders stronger and broader to bear the weight of, you know, to kind of say, hey, you know what, we are a culture. We are Phil-Ams, and we're Phil-Ams in New York or in America, trying to make our name for ourselves, trying to do our thing. And if I can help other Filipino Americans kind of get there, I'm down with that. I don't think I am the best role model. I will help, you know, I mean, I will help people. But my path has definitely been a shaky one. I think when I make dishes, I really just want to make something tasty. It starts with tasty. And then what is a dish, what do I want this dish to taste like? Whether it's Filipino, Korean, Japanese, Thai, Vietnamese, whatever. I don't know, I think the inspiration happens, I don't know, I mean, it's hard to explain how that inspiration happens, but it just happens. What I do know is that, like, I draw from, you know, when you have the vinegar, the chili, the little bit, you know, the vinegar chili, the garlic vinegar chili.
Right. Kind of our dipping.
Yeah, our dipping sauce. Like when I'm making a dish, I know that I want that brightness.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That has always stayed with me. That kind of like that brightness that does for dishes. That always stays with me when I make anything. So I want an acid component on it, and I mean it's definitely formed my palate. But I wouldn't necessarily say that like I directly draw from Filipino food.
Right.
You know, there's certain dishes that yes, like our green mango salad. Like when I was in Malaysia 2 summers ago, I had a green mango salad out there, and it reminded me of my grandmother, like, you know, making pogong and then having raw green mango and just dipping it into there or a little vinegar, and like it reminded me of that, you know. And I was like, damn, I gotta do a salad here like that. So I did a green mango salad that's inspired by it, but it's not exactly what it is. But there is definitely inspiration to it. Moving to New York is unemployment. I was unemployed, dude, in Chicago and broke, and like looked at kind of it as a sign from God to say, if you love New York and you've been there a couple times and you want to eat, you want to work there and kind of be, I mean, there's no other place in the world. This is it. If you're cooking, there are other places, but like this is it. I mean, this is like, you have New York experience, you know what the hustle is, you know, like, there is no slow period in New York City. I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. People eat out every day of the week here. So there is no like, oh no, it's slow. So, I mean, that brought me to New York, and then what brought me to Brooklyn was kind of what you're just saying, is that I love Chicago. Like, and when I came out to Brooklyn, like, it really reminded me of, you know, where I lived in Chicago, like the north side. Oh, this is like a neighborhood. You know, it's a true neighborhood.
Right.
It's a true neighborhood. You know, this is Park Slope, where you know the guys across the street. You know the bodega owner's name. You know the guy in Russo's where I get my Italian sandwiches. I walk into the joint. He says, "You want an Italian?" Yes. No no provolone mozzarella? Yes. Cherry peppers instead of hot peppers? Yes. I don't have to say anything. The guy just starts doing it. So it's like, cool, man. Like, it's a neighborhood where you don't find that as much in New York City. I played PBA in Chicago. I mean, you know, it's funny when you tell somebody that. Like, yeah, I played it in kind of an intramural public league. It was called PBA. It was Filipino, and they're like, wow, 5 foot. Like, yeah, you know, sleep on it. Yeah. Sleep on us until that dude blows by you. You know, until you get these Filipino kids, like, that are just super ill at basketball. You know, like, I don't know. It's always been my thing. I played ball. I like literally 2 weeks ago. I went to the Y for the first time, and it's by my house on Atlantic. And they're like, "Hey, you wanna try out? You wanna try the gym?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd like to see the basketball gym." And they had an open court. And I walked in, and they're playing full court games. I'm like, I'm in no physical condition to be doing this. And they're like, "Hey, you wanna run full court?" I'm like, "Fuck it, man, let's do it." So I, laced up the shoes instead of just shooting around. I ran playing full court, and after the first game, I was like, "Oh my god, I hope we lose." I was like, "I hope we lose, so I can just step off this court and kick a breather." And we end up riling off 3 straight games, and I was like, at the end of it, like they're like, I'm like, "Hey, you want to run again?" I just looked at everybody, and people started filing out. I'm like, "Well, if you absolutely need me," they're like, "Looks like this last game." I'm like, "Sweet." No, but I play ball as much as I can. I mean, it's not often anymore, but when I can, I love to play. It's like it's my number one sport, like to watch, and we have tickets to the Nets. We have season tickets to the Nets. So, all my business partners are like, "Yo, you're gonna stand behind Brooklyn, stand behind Brooklyn." I'm like, "Yeah, I can stand behind Brooklyn until the Bulls show up." And then everybody else, and they're like, "Oh, why don't They played Brooklyn and New York last night. They're like, "You can't wear a Brooklyn hat." I'm like, this is the thing, dude. It's really, as much as I'm down for Brooklyn and I'm down to ride with them, I die with the Bulls. I am all about the Bulls, and my home team. And you can never pull that away from me. So they're always giving me some stuff about it. But I'm like, listen, dude. Like, I grew up with Jordan. So it's like, relax. You guys don't have that. Yeah. They never have. They never will. And everybody's playing catch up. Work someplace that you would look at and be like, "I would never work there for one day." Or ask if you could train there for one day. See how bad it can really get. Because when you own your own restaurant, when you first open and garbage needs to get thrown away, who else is going to do it? When we opened Pork Slope and we had way too much fun like the first weekend, and it was awesome. Everyone's partying really hard and getting really drunk and having great, tons of food, and it was awesome. But then someone throws up in the bathroom. Who's gonna do it? You're gonna tell your dishwasher to clean it? Well, you haven't done it. No, I did it. I pulled my dishwasher and I said, "Can you help me do this?" And I cleaned it. Because how are you going to gain the respect of that dishwasher if you're just going to tell him to do something and he won't see you get your hands dirty? No, I put some gloves on and I cleaned it. That's what it is. You see your parents, I would see my mom work 16, doubles and work 16 hours a day. And your mom, I would hear my mom say it, and it didn't really click until I wouldn't see her until like 5 o'clock that afternoon the next day, and I was like, she worked graveyard. On top of that, she worked graveyard. She worked at 7-Eleven, and then 11 till
What did she do?
She was an RN.
Okay.
She's a nurse. So I would see her do that, and I was like, it doesn't click in your head like how much work that actually is. How much. You grow up as a kid, you hear you gotta work 8 hours. Or you have to sleep 8 hours a day. No, you don't. My mom never did. My dad never did. The most my mom and dad would ever get was 5 or 6 hours of sleep. So I think the hard work ethic, I know it came from them, watching them bust their ass, all the time. Thank you. This hustle, I've always said that I hustle as hard as I do for my parents, but to some degree I hustle just as hard for everybody who's believed in what this is and Talde is, and who's a fan, and who stood behind me when I was a total jerk on the show the first time, and hopefully you guys enjoyed my stint on the second time, and come out to Brooklyn and check out what we really do. And thank you.